Hi, can everybody hear me? Woo! All right, it's working.
I can't see. Oosh.
You can't see me. Can you see me? Yes, see me. I am in the Matrix. Wow, well, a lot of stuff's going on. I'm just reading the list that is, you want to talk about the Matangi era, and you want to talk about challenging the theme of the New World Order. Current world events. When not doing music, what do you do for fun? Oh my god, I don't have fun. Are you kidding? What platforms are you thinking about putting your new music on? All right, so currently what I'm doing is editing. So that's what I was just doing now, but not editing video. I was editing the audio book version of the book thing. So that's the first thing I'm trying to do. And that's kind of what has been helping me stay sane throughout this bit, because have you signed a new deal? How is the album rollout going? Well, it's hard to roll out an album during COVID, but it's sort of come down to me doing a lot of it at home by myself in this room, and there's not even like my room. So I have what I have, which is this many hard drives, and in the Matrix, I don't know if you see. And I'm like putting together everything by myself here. So it's kind of like, you know, this album was supposed to be me not doing everything DIY, but it's just by recent events, it's kind of DIY. So that's the other thing. Found this at my mum's. It's a fan from the Summer Sonic Festival in 2005 from Summer Stage back in the day. Thoughts on Floyd, WikiLeaks kind of thing. It's not a WikiLeaks kind of thing. It's a proper album, actually. It's the most. Okay, so the universe is kind of cyclical, and today definitely feels like 2010. But this time, what I did, rather than creating the same loop, and rather than giving people Maya, I decided to make the album that people thought I was going to make in 2010. So in terms of the red pill and the blue pill, I think this album is the exact opposite to Maya. So to me, it feels like if life goes in a circle, it's almost like, and if you flip it onto the side, it's not the same circle in the same spot. it's a circle like that, but then it's a circle like that, and then it's a circle like that, and then, you know, so there's distance between the circles, which is time. So there's Maya era, and then now we're here. And then this era, when it comes round, I decided to go in the direction that, you know, what if I didn't make the crazy Maya album direction and made the other album. So it's like that. It's having said what the problem is. I feel like I don't want to keep talking about what the problem is, but it's about self-preservation and trying to just make stuff that makes you feel good. And it's trying to zoom out and looking at it from a bigger perspective than politics and identity, and still not really about relationships and things like that. I haven't really explored that. Can you guys hear me? Okay, so that's what it is. I will try to play a snippet, but please don't put it on an Instagram thing because it's not really worked on. See if I could connect my phone to this thing. This is what I tried to do last time. And every time I get to talking about music on this thing, something happens and the whole thing cuts out. It's probably like
battery 80%. Casey's MacBook Air HUAW EIP20 Pro. Connected to HUAW EIP20 Pro.
I got. Da, 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 da. What have I got? Let's see. What have I been working on? So music-wise, see, I've had a book day, but
Connected to HUAW EIP20 Pro.
can't hear that. Well, maybe I'm not supposed to play this too, because every time I try, no, Grimes did not reply. Every time I try, Grimes did not reply. Oh, she's busy. She just had a baby. Every time I try, Grimes, she didn't reply. Oh, she is busy. She's busy having a baby.
HUAW EIP20
Come on, just
Pro.
connect. Disconnected. Pair it again. Okay, the speaker thing's not working.
HUAW EIP20 Pro.
Speaking my name.
Connected to HUAW EIP20
Give me a minute.
Pro.
What? Your landlord gave me 30 days to vacate. I literally don't belong here.
Connected to EHUAW EIP20 Pro.
Well, everyone's having this problem. Okay, this is one of my favorite songs on there.
I'm not fake like them, they're like fake like when I wake up then I see a fake like them. I'm not fake like them, they're like fake like when I wake up then I see a fake like them. Cut my losses, ball and chain. I don't want to fake, speak in my name. You ain't gang, we ain't the same. Step away, don't play this game. In the street, I think the peace of day. You ain't real, don't come this way. In the street, but you keep the peace of day. You ain't gang, don't come this way. There's levels to the ripples, and I'm gripping little cover, but I'm done with you, throw in the pebble. Better run with the tiger, and you better be alright. It ain't nothing but my life is subtle. Cut my losses, ball and chain. I don't wanna fake, speak in my name. You ain't gang, we ain't the same. Step away, don't play this game. In the street, I keep the peace of day. You ain't real, don't come this way. In the street, would you keep the peace of day? You ain't gang, don't come this way. There's lessons in the struggle, sometimes I think I love all. Keep us going when there is buckle. You can't meet me in the middle, set it for a model that brings us to the brink, keep this battle. Cause you're fighting in the place that's already won. Not gonna ask you where you got your gun. You're hiding in the place that's already found. Hope you realize this fakeness don't count. In the street, I keep the peace of day. You ain't real, don't come this way. In the street, would you keep the peace of day? You ain't gang, don't come this way. No mistake, make no mistake. When you see me, make no mistake.
No mistake, make no mistake. Namaste, make no mistake. All right, so that's not really mixed. That's still the demo. But I can't get to the studio because we're on quarantine. But people are working on it. And the demo is on, I think maybe a bit of everything. Logic, Pro Tools, Ableton. You don't have a song with the Vanilla Vase sample. Are you talking about? No, I don't have it. Oh, I don't know. Talking about current affairs. So I think that this is kind of, oh, that was code for make one with the sample. How'd you know Mel's on this chat? Hi, Mel. I'm just going to say what I think is happening, right, really quickly, and then move on. Oh my God, there's so much to say about it. Yes, it's controlled opposition. So Biden came on, said some crazy shit. Then everyone's like, what? And then the next day, this sort of shit starts. And I just feel like that's a model that's, yeah, that's already established. It's an established model. And I think that people's emotions are being weaponized and led. And the sad thing is people are destroying their own communities to get justice again. And I think that is crazy that the narrative is sort of starting to be about Trump and Biden in the election, because that's when it first happened on this scale, was just before Trump was in. And I think that it can't be one or the other. It's both people, both sides have to find justice and find a way to fix that system. And it's not about Republicans and Democrats. It's just justice is justice, and it should be beyond those two parties, and it needs to be right, and it needs to be, you know, the whatever's set in motion right now, it needs, justice needs to be served. It needs to be achieved. Like, those people need to go to jail. End of story. If it happens again, those people go to jail. That's just an operation that's set up, and it was set up no matter who's in power, whether it's Trump, Biden, or Hillary, or whoever it is. So it's about the justice system. And if this has been going on for hundreds of years, and it's not checked by the Democrats or the Republicans, it's not like politics doesn't need to be involved in this and fan the flames. And yeah, and I think, I don't know, there's something about what I find settling is that video of that guy. I mean, first of all, he was cashing a check during COVID, which means he was hard up for cash. The other video of him circulating, so there's that footage where he wasn't resisting, he was just in the car, and then he gets arrested. And then the other video I saw was him talking about how to stop kids having guns and black on black violence. So to get somebody like that, a figure in the community who's trying to do good in their own community, so a bit of a social worker or a community leader or somebody like that, and he was religious. That's the other thing I read, is that he was dragging like the pool into the hoods to like baptize people and stuff like that in times of these kind of times. And so they specifically, I feel like, could have known when they went that they were going to target him. You don't know. And I just find that very strange that it took 9 minutes for that whole thing to happen, and somebody was filming it, and it was like the cop made sure it was filmed and didn't mind, and there was no, you know, it just seemed all a bit like, it was just so, I don't know. Yeah, they're saying that they knew each other, and he worked there for 17 years. And then the neighbors said that they never saw him in a uniform. So this is all kind of weird, even though obviously he would have been a cop because he had a record of doing crazy shit to other people. So now nobody remembers what Biden said, and now everybody remembers what Trump said about being, everyone being called a thug. And that's what's sort of taking place. So I don't know what's going to happen in a week's time, but it's turned into this like political campaign. And so then you've got more people getting involved and turning it about the riots being, a wealth inequality thing and looting expensive shops now, which is true. That is an event that's going on as well. So now it's getting really out of hand, and like politically, it seems like everyone's sort of, I don't know, I think in a world where politically people are such opportunists, you have to be careful, people have to be really, really like careful not to be manipulated, because social media is also a place where all of these, so there's reality and then there's social media, and both of these conversations are happening. The people are using social media to organize and be like, go here, go there, do this, do that, and filming it, sharing it, blah, blah, blah. And then there's the next layer, which sort of takes all of that and then puts it into boxes and organizes that information into having the valued effect, the like whatever the intention is. And so I think that's the important thing, is to separate social media that's kind of going on, and then there's the manipulated social media, and then there's the outcome of the generated social media. So last time this happened, there was, a lot of talk about Russians getting involved and manipulating BLM or manipulating people or putting people in place to instigate certain things that wasn't true and da-da-da. So this time, again, like the election's coming up, this is happening again. So you have to kind of draw similarities to what happened before the election in 2015. And then whatever's similar there and whatever's similar now is similar. And that is what is, I think, not Russian. And that is the way that box of controlled blah is packaged and made, constructed. So whatever elements were in the first one, whatever the elements were in this one, and how it evolves, then it belongs to the same place. And, whatever is not in the second one, but was in the first one, is, I would say, Russian, because I don't think the Russians are jumping in now. And if they felt that any Russian influence came in through Julian Assange, well, he's not involved now. So whatever's going on is just what's going on. And if it was Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook, and you're still yielding the same effect as the first time to now, politically with the situation, then that's a Facebook thing, and that's a Cambridge Analytica thing, and that's like still operational. Mark Zuckerberg is still operational and more powerful than he was in 2016, or more richer and more whatever. So that's how I think about it. You know, seeing it from the outside about what's going on there. But what I would like to see is that, you know, even the shooting and looting thing for like outsiders, that doesn't, it's not even, you know, it's not even a Biden or a Trump thing or a Democrat or a Republican thing. Shooting and looting was happening throughout history. Like Americans, like the army, when they raided Iraq or whatever, they shooted and looted, you know, and shooting and looting in our way of interpreting that concept is different, you know, in how you see that concept. But when it's applied within America, it's different because it's talking about Black people, or, you know, in this incident, even that is confusing because I read that it was a cop who started breaking the windows and inciting the violence and the looting. So even that's a bit confusing. So yeah, I think that what should happen is that in order for it to be an inspiring place, there needs to be justice. It's simple. But this is kind of all what my book is about, because you know, I feel like I went through this 4 years ago. So I'm not even, I don't quite digest the information on, because I drew that conclusion a long time ago, that it's more like, you know, the concept of, if you look at the concept of like good and bad, and those two energies, there's positive and negative, and, you know, everybody exists in all of it. So within social media, there's good and bad manipulation. And then within politics, there's some good people and bad people. Within people, there's good people and bad people. Within everything. And then you think about what the goal of each thing is, and then everything becomes very simple to see. You know, what is the goal of the force of good, and what's the goal of the force of bad? And at the moment, with COVID and the pandemic, and losing 100,000 people in America and more around the world, every country has to figure out what they represent. Like every country has to explain that to me. I can't get it. So on the one hand, you want us to still believe in the old politics and the old systems in place and the old concept of countries and the old concept of political parties and financial structures and the banking system and, you know, the industries and everything that's set up, you know, like you still want everything to function as they did. And when people come out of the gates after COVID and go back to civilization, everything you think is going to be the same and go back to how it was. So you want us to believe that and you want us to embrace that. But then we've just been fed for 3 months going, nothing's ever going to be the same again. Nothing's ever going to be the same again. Nothing's ever going to be the same again. We have to change everything. We've also been fed that the last 3-4 months. So to me, you know, at the moment, I'm a bit schizo in terms of trying to understand, like, because this event in America right now is saying the old world is still functioning. But what's happened And the dialogue that's been happening for the last 3-4 months has been that is not happening anymore. And that, you know, in order to embrace New World Order, it is about one government, one bank, one religion, one and that's what we're gearing up for. You know, everybody's doing online schooling, everybody's going to get into this collective data pool of humanity, and we're going to figure out what this thing is, and we're all going to evolve together, and meanwhile send rockets to Mars while trying to, you know, create some order on planet Earth. So this is a really interesting point, you know. I'm an elementary school teacher. What does that look like if we go back? Yeah, exactly. I mean, my kid is supposed to start school next week, and he's in a very small school. They have to keep like 2 meters apart, and all the desks like don't fit in the classrooms because it's like a converted house or whatever. And it's just really interesting, like what all of that's going to look like. Zuckerberg and banking, what could go wrong? Exactly. I'm not sure. I haven't decided whether I should send him back to school yet. I'm still working on that. I'm saying that I'm trying to figure out yeah, it's a really confusing one. I've tried to like get him to learn differently. So so we've kind of sort of decided that during this time we'll test out that he picks one thing he likes, and then we just learn that for like a month and see what happens. And it's a different way, and it's a difficult thing. So, you know, to keep his attention going. And it's really about not seeing friends and stuff that really affects the kids, I think, more. Bill Gates to reimagine education. No, what? Why do they have to be involved in everything? Like, can we just get like different people to do different things? Like, just one person doesn't have to be good at everything. But yeah, even that idea is coming out of America. Like the concept, you know, of that whole situation with Bill Gates is US led, you know. So the other thing I was, just before this all kicked off, the riots kicked off, the other story I read on my Twitter was how there's a startup company looking for DNA, like good genes, right? And they ran that story for like 2 days. It popped up on my phone. And I was just thinking, and I was explaining this to Mel, how this concept of genes and DNA and manipulating this DNA thing, pool, getting into the whole eugenics thing, it's very confusing, because one of the things that I feel that's happening is this superior, inferior thing, the concept itself, and racism and invasions and killing and taking people out and you know, conquering, or colonialism, if you want to take it back, like all of these feelings. Why isn't that studied? You know? So to me, what if I was into that? If I was into DNA analysis and eugenics and trying to weed out the bad gene from humans, I'm not going to be looking for people that they're looking for. Like, oh, who has the gene to, I don't know what they're looking for. You know, like people that are not like, I don't know, whatever it is. I'd be looking for people who have the need to conquer and destroy and eliminate and take over and be powerful and you know, that feeling, it obviously does not go away with money. It doesn't go away with power. It doesn't go away with yoga, even for some people. It doesn't go away. Like, it stays. And what is that? And like, if we can just go and get the DNA of fucking Rockefeller and all of those kind of peeps and study that, it'd be more interesting to figure out how humanity got here, you know? Well, empathy is a weird one, because I feel like when I came to America back in 2005, I went there before, but when I moved there in 2005, and, you know, I really felt like I was, you know, I was really into the idea of seeing all walks of life and studying this different kind of anthropology. And one of the things that I realized was that it was like, you know, it was, especially in New York, I felt like people often wanted to remove the concept of empathy and to isolate what part of your brain was empathetic and eliminate it very quickly, because it was seen as not a good thing to have if you wanted to become a rich elite. And it is something you have to shut down. You just do. And it's, you know, it's really funny, like when I think about the groups of people I'm around throughout music, like musicians have to function on empathy. It's almost like this is why I posted those things about sound and sonics and empathy. Like all of those things, I think, function on the same like wave of frequency. And the wave, if you're into that wave, it's very difficult to train yourself out of it. And but once you do, it's very hard to be back on the other. Like it's very, you know, maybe this is why like induced like drugs or smoking weed or these kind of things help zone back in. Because once you zone out and you start thinking about business and money and like lack of empathy and becoming closed in the way that society teaches you, and you know how we're like, oh my god, so-and-so's trillionaire, amazing, like let's put him on the cover, and you ain't shit because you didn't do it. Oh, you know, oh, don't you have a sweatshop that's like, you know, building this brand, and what about your legacy? Like, you know, don't you want that? Those, once you start like thinking about that, then tapping in is very hard into like this other sort of connection. And then you have to like, yeah. I find that music and cooking occupies the same space. Every time when I make music, I cannot cook. And then if I cooked, then I can't make music. It's very strange. I use the same bit of my brain. And that if I'd already exercised my creativity cooking, then I'm pretty useless if I try to write a song. But yeah, I do think about that, how some human beings are just not very good at business, and they're just not very good at, you know, rolling with the punches of how like we're developing, because we're developing so fast. We're gonna be good at this, we're gonna be good at that, like maximize market, like blah, blah, blah. And now, you know, we've got all the added extra stuff of being like great and being great at doing TED Talks, and we're like, you know, inspirational beings, and we are having positive impact, and we're like multi-billionaires, and we're also happen to be good at music, and we're a fashion designer, and we're going to fix eugenics, and we're going to and we're going to do that, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And I think that's like, it's just so aggressive. And I think that it's very confusing for people. And I'm already exhausted too. I'm exhausted, and I know that half of the things that I should be doing, I'm not doing, but that's because I do have a problem, and you don't have to be like me, but I have a problem where I sometimes go, well, if I do this, then it's going to do that, and then I'll be doing this. And then, you know, for example, if I did set up a brand or I was selling something, you know, I always feel like that. But most of the time I was feeling like that because of the digital space. You know, I was scared to collect all my fans into one pot, and wanted my stuff to be really spread out, and not, you know, didn't want that thing, because it's not like we were like, oh, we do this and we like dancing, and then, you know, we like whatever. It's like, it's a specific fan base, because it's a fan base that's exposed to reality, and it's not. Yes, I didn't want to compartmentalize my fan base, because my fan base knows a lot, and they're not like other fan bases, which means they are more prone to being targeted. And it's better if I don't have a clear fan base, you know. But then what that left me with is, in the times of me being myself being targeted, like, you know, if they remove your YouTubes, and if they remove this and remove that, and, you know, edit the blah, 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 which they do to me a lot, there is no clear, like, group to go to and be like, hey, like, this is my fan base and it needs to be protected, you know. So that's my yeah, my thing is to, and also I think it goes with the fact of being a question mark. Like, if you're not tied to you, if you're not tied to a thing, if your identity is not tied to me and, you know, who you're into, or your musicians or idols and all of those things, it also leaves you free to fill that space up in the way you're supposed to. So it's not about, it was to show you, it's to show you, if you say this and act like this, and these are the limitations, you know, it's to show you the society ceiling and floor, or the edges, and to be like, you don't have to, you can see that from a distance. And, you know, yeah, well, idols are a really interesting concept, because in Hinduism or in any religion, people have idols. And then now we have festivals where we have an idol on stage, and then everyone's sort of like focused on this one person. And it's like collective consciousness together in one spot. And what that means is that thousands of years ago, we were together in this one spot, collectively conscious about the concept of God, or the concept of, you know, like the rain coming down for our agricultural farms, or we're praying to like rain gods, or praying to da, 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 da. And then now, you know, we're there and we idolize onto this person, and whatever that person is about, I think is important because of that. You know, if that person's about love and greatness and la 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 la, then that's great, because, you know, you're giving power to that. If that person's about wealth, then that's what you're giving power to. You know, if that person's about ego, then that's what you're giving power to. And then your society will mimic those traits, because that's just like how that shit works. You know, you put your energy into the thing that is telling you this is the thing, and then the thing is then what you will see out in the world a lot projected. I feel like that's how it works. So, you know, if you're into the world being a better place, and you're into justice, and you're into, you know, evolution in a mindful sense, and people becoming smarter, people becoming more, you know, tolerant and conscious or healthy or whatever, you know, all of these things. It's nice when your idol embodies those things, you know. And so I do think that some of the chaos in the world, we generated that. We generated by collectively consciously focusing on that thing. So, you know, it's also like how social media and the internet works, because you put all of your conscious energy onto this platform, and then it's sorting us out into compartments, you know. So you've got like compartments of yes, you are right. That's why you could see that. That's how it works. Do you think there'll be a shift in art and philosophy post-COVID? I think so. I think that, you know, if it's like this, and then here's all the artists, and here's the person at the top that's like funneling the money through the institutions, and all the institutions are like, this year we're going to make it about this issue, you know. So if it's an issue-based thing, and then everybody collectively was making the same shit to get the cookie over here. So art cannot function like that. Art should not be within this construct of marketable industry, you know, and music is the same. So music is the waveform itself, is all around, and it's a circular entity, and it's like, it's big, it's an element. Sound is an element. So when you're squashing it into a pyramid for the sake of monetizing the industry, you're cutting out a lot of its thing, you know, of its entire, I don't know, like it's not this 2D thing. Like sound is like this, but even more complicated than the matrix filter. So I think art works the same. Like as long as art becomes about the individual and expression of tuning into you know, the individual's interpretation and tuning into what is important to them, and they're using it as a thing, as a journey, as a thing to learn their world or connect, comment, understand life and love, or, you know, the energy or God or whatever it is, whatever you use art for, like that's what it should be. And it shouldn't be that, oh, you're only going to make it as an artist because of a trend, or because, you know, today this topic is hot and next year is just not going to be hot. And, you know, today it's all about feminism, or tomorrow's all going to be gender, and next day it's going to be all about race. And I think that's not fun, you know. So I think maybe art goes back to the individual and individual beliefs, and also very practical. It has to become art has to become practical, and there's going to be these two society of artists, and one who are in the matrix and one who are not. And the artists who function outside of the matrix need art for a different purpose, and the artists who are within the matrix need the art for a different purpose. So I think there will be two strands of that development, you know. And it's not about conscious or unconscious or anything like that. I think it's really about those two avenues. Are there artists dead or alive whose work embodies or illustrates the point you just made? Yeah, I think there's loads of artists. I really love what do you know, the artist that made the ladder that goes up into the sky with the fireworks? Kai. So his grandma died, and tell you who it is. That's it. I think his art is beautiful, but also he's very much like, that's what he does. That's who he is. And then he made that fireworks ladder for his grandma when she died, and it was Stairways to Heaven. And it's like the most, you know, I really love art that is mechanically genius, and also, you know, super personal, but beautiful, you know, like it's very, as an artist, I feel like that. Like when I first started, if I weren't an artist, what would I do? What now or back then? What I would do now is I would get into definitely something to do with nature. Like I want to be somewhere, like now I would make my life, you know, out of the city and find something to do in a community where I want to be, you know, and it doesn't really matter what I do. So I would choose the community where I want to go and then live there. This is kind of my dream. And I would just move there. It doesn't matter where I lived or what kind of a place. But I would just do that. But the other day, you know, I also do like the idea of studying about the sound a bit more. You know, like, for example, if you can put speakers underwater and regenerate coral, that's pretty fucking amazing. Like cause and effect, you know. So to use sound in a bigger way is nice. To really just study sound would be nice, scientifically. Yeah, I want to do that. So my next project, so I kind of signed. I signed. I was like, you signed what? So I signed to do music. Yeah, see, when Bjork was doing that, I didn't understand it in the way she did it. But Matangi, now you wanted to talk about Matangi, but that's exactly what I was trying to understand, because when I studied the Matangi thing back then in 2011 and 12, and I went to India, and they explained to me what she represented. And it was to do with pollution of sound. Like she's like, Wikipedia says like some random stuff, like she's the goddess of pollution and that you give her partially eaten food, but all this is bullshit. Like the concept of what Matangi is very specifically to do with sound. And she's known as the goddess of pollution, and in some countries people pray to her and they throw garbage at her and stuff like that, because Jews considered to be a goddess of the untouchables, and therefore any poor people, whether they're clean or not, whether they've showered or bathed or coming straight from work, and could go straight to her, to the shrine, and they can pray to her. And in Hindu temples, they used to have this thing like, you can't go if you're on your period, but people would go and throw their tampons at the god, because they felt that was normal, and because she was a goddess of pollution. But really what it is nobody really likes having tampons thrown at them, or garbage, and half of that shit didn't fucking exist back then. So what it is in reference to is pollution of sound and pollution of the airwaves, because it is an important thing, and that's what she represents. And the reason why she hangs out in the forests and with the untouchables is because, sorry, why are you ignored? The reason why she's an untouchable is because that's where she could study the pollution of sound the most. It's not in quiet, serene places. It's not in heaven. It's not in, in your palace or in the temple, in your abode. That's not where you get the polluted sound frequencies. The polluted sound frequencies exists like in the ghetto, in the hood, in the streets, in the, slums or untouchable communities. And that's where she exists to clean it. Yeah. Occupy the airwaves. Have you ever decided to start a project with a specific theme that didn't work out in the end? All the time. I start all the time. Yeah. Yes, it's called being an artist. What's up with the Master Data project? Well, yeah, like that. No, I think Master Data was like a space in time that happened in between two of the spaces where I had a conventional record deal. So Master Data is all the stuff I do outside of that, and I think this new thing I'm doing, it will still be a part of that. The book will be a part of that. So it's eventually anything, the concept is that anything that you create, even if it's outside of the monetary system, it's still valuable, and it still has an energy to it. And they all can be collected up into the one umbrella, which is Master Data, which is the metadata you leave behind. And so it was during a time where, like I said, I didn't want all my fan base to be in one place and all my work to be in one place, just because it was just annoying seeing what was happening to it. So I knew that I was going to create in a disparate way and put out things all over the place. And 2 people might have a look at this, but 10 people might look at that, and 1 million people might look at this. But eventually, one day it can be put together like a Rubik's Cube and exist somewhere, you know. And there was a story of an Egyptian queen who ruled as a king. I don't know how to say her name. Hesper. Does anyone know this? Yes, that one. Hatshepsut. So her son became the king, or stepson, and then didn't like her, so he chiseled all her images off the thing. And then they know who she is because of the negative space on the inscriptions. So I felt like, you know, when I was in 2010 or just after that, when my work was getting chiseled off the internet, I felt like that's what was happening. And you know, Master Data is kind of like the concept of the negative space that's created, because as an artist, you had to, in my head, I had to create that space of like, here's the work that's accepted, and here's the chiseled out work that is not allowed to exist, or it's like manipulated, or it's like buried under the thing. And Hatshepsut. So that, I think, is the negative information of your metadata. Art about the world, the problems of the world, the illusion of the world, the combination of them. What next? Well, the last 4 years for me has definitely been about just letting go of everything I know and I've learnt. And, you know, even the feelings, like sometimes I think that when I first started making art, I made it because I was really frustrated because of all the terrible things that happen in the world, you know. So I think try not to, if you're aware of the intention and if you're aware of that, then you are aware, and then half of your need to make work from that specific drive, it goes away. And I think it's important to point out injustices and terrible things that happen in the world, but I couldn't let all of my motivation come from that place, because I also didn't want to put it back in the world. And also, if you want to be which I think I already knew, it's not like something I've just had to learn, but I knew that even if you come from a terrible place, the work you make has to be positive, and it had to make people dance or had to make people feel good, you know. And even if you were telling them about something terrible that happened, you can counteract it with the feeling that it makes them feel, you know, which is not terrible. And you can hear a really happy sounding song but feel really depressed or numb afterwards. And you can hear a song about something terrible but feel good. And I think that was what I found really kind of comedy to heal. Yeah, comedy really works. But then I find like even comedy gets into like this ballpark of correct comedy, acceptable comedy, comedy that everybody's not gonna find, you know, like even when comedy is offensive or like whatever, like if you watch comedy on Netflix or on television, I feel like the comedians are still going through the same funnel of, look at me, like I'm ticking all the right boxes, you know, like it's very difficult to have somebody really say shit at the time they can really say it. There is a Tamil comedian though that my friend sent me the other day who was really funny. So yeah, I think comedy is really important, that it comes hand in hand with bravery. People have to be really fucking brave nowadays because the you know, society we've created where we are cancelled very quickly over words, and more so than fucking actions. It's fucking weird. Anything that is direct speaking, like comedy, like comedians are a bit scared, I would say. But a lot of people say comedy works more than music at this point. Hi. I feel it's really frustrating. You have to find ways to tell the truth, but painting it pink. Yeah. Yeah, truth is kind of. I'm really curious to see. Sometimes it's like, oh my God. It's like change happens with you. So you have to constantly work on yourself, and you have to evolve, and then you have to understand that different people are at different stages, but then we've created these platforms who is operating on exactly the same stage. So you've got 7 billion people who are democratized on this space, and everyone's operating on the same level. But then it could be that we're all on different, you know, levels of understanding. And this happens throughout your life. So like, you know, what I was like at 20 is different to what I'm like now. And different things are important. And all of this sort of has to be considered, but it's really strange because we don't, when we get on social media and stuff, we also don't take that into account. You know, it's like, I'm a reporter and I'm reporting like this. Well, I'm a scientist and I'm reporting like this. Well, I'm a technocrat billionaire and I'm reporting like this. And and then, you know what, since we're all like this, then we're going to just like say it like that. And then it's sort of like a weird way. And then there's other people who don't, especially I think artists and musicians and creative people, we have a different way of existing and seeing things or understanding things and feeling things. So it's very difficult to even speak on social media when it's gone into this state. So you can only like speak their language. If you're on there, you have to speak that language. There has to be a separate language on social media. There's a separate language on the news. There's a separate language in the mainstream media. And then there's this other language, the real language of like what humans are, I think, which is connected more to see this numbers and codes of the matrix or whatever. Like this, we have, you know, the entire universe, and there's like an energy system, and there's different things people are in tune with, and not everybody's exactly the same. We do like our labels and tribes. So I've been thinking about an Omni logo for this book. So I might have to take this filter off now. I'm removing the filter. How do I remove the filter? So I might have to stop the camera in order to remove. Oh. No. Whoa. Hi, everyone. Right. So there's the Om sign for Omni. So these are the things I'm thinking about. And then there's the other sign for Om, which is the electrical sign. This is the sound, but also the oldest language in the world, which is Tamil. And this is our Om sign, which they say is mirrored, but this kind of reflects the brain. And that's supposed to reflect your pineal gland. And this is your tongue. That's your brain, cranium. And then this is how I see it. But this is also the thing, the grid outside of the matrix grid. And I was thinking maybe fit the whole thing into it like this, but I'm not sure. But these symbols look like the first ancient text called Brahmi text, which Tamil comes from. So I'm working on that. And the guy who made this is David Rodnick, who I'm working with. And that's the normal Hindu sign with the MIA thing. And this is what Julian said about Omni. If you look at most definitions, a God is omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent. In particular, God knows when you are doing something that you shouldn't be doing, and whether you are playing according to God's rules. I don't know why he said that or when he said that. I didn't even think he believed in God, but I thought that was kind of a cool quote. And then this whole like tie-dye thing, I'm going to keep for the new record. So it's kind of going back to the Matangi thing, but this time it's more about the whole thing as opposed to the concept of this one particular deity. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Global surveillance government. Right. So the global surveillance thing is basically like this. This is their net, you know, but on Earth. And then our net has to be this, and Earth is like that, you know. So they're looking at Earth here, maybe. But we need to look at this. and go beyond that. And yeah, so anyone got any ideas about this Omni logo, you're welcome to chip in and send me ideas, because I haven't decided. But I really am working to try to get my first section of the book out this week, which is why I'm like this and I haven't even got dressed or anything. Any publishers interested? Yeah. Okay, can I talk about this? Because I just want to talk about it as a person. I'm scared to hand it to a publisher because it's the same thing as a comedian. I feel like it's not a thing that is like ticking all the right boxes and saying all the right things about the right people and da-da-da-da-da. And I don't want that to go in, that kind of thing to go near the work. Like, it should be just free to be whatever it is. And, you know, as a person, I get that I don't want to be in a box or pigeonholed, or, you know, I don't want to be collectively batting for the Democrats or collectively batting for the Republicans or collectively batting for fucking whatever this new thing is. And I want to be in my own world and say what I want to say. But at the same time, I've had a history of people stealing my shit as well. I do back for Corbyn because I really felt like he's the last of a very, you know, he's the last of that. You're never going to have another person like him again, just because it's the diet of what we're brought up on socially is so important. And we are being, because half of the shit we're being fed is fake, I feel like the quality of what we are and what we will become in the future, you know, it's like hair. Like, when you analyze a strand of hair, you could see the history persons had in their diet, you know. And I think human beings are the same. So conceptually, the experiences Corbyn had, and, you know, before, you could say like the blob eventually gets to everyone, but those experiences are there. And if you I don't know, you have to respect that. Time after time, you've been cupping mine. So that's right. So I was scared to hand it in, though there are publishers, but I just felt like the publishers, right, were like, the publishers are here, and then they had a person that was telling them what to publish, and that all these people had to fit through the funnel again. So it wasn't the right time to take it to publishers. You almost have to wait for the publishers to wake the fuck up and let things be and not be clouded. But it's so much about shareholders and market driven blah, and the pressures even the publishers have to succumb to, those molds, you know. And molds and trends. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like since this is a book, it's not like if it's music and I'm putting out music, it's one thing. But if it's like something that's something else, like I don't even know what it is. So I was just going to put it on Omni and maybe self-publish just to give myself more peace of mind, really, so I didn't have to be paranoid. And you know, because I'm not easily digestible and politically right all the time, someone else is going to come along and be like, well, I am, so I'm going to take your thing, and when I do it, it's going to be much better, so fuck you. So it's that kind of thing. But you know, is what real? Yeah, it happens all the fucking time. Well, I haven't had a very good run of it. What orange thing? Oh, clothes. Well, I felt like during the COVID thing, we needed to rethink about waste and adding to that. So I did take a year out. Like last year, I spent all year doing this stuff, thinking about clothes, and I went to, you know, figure out how to set up a sustainable company and to use certain fabrics that were better for the environment, and like the progress in that industry in terms of creating new fabrics and like I work with Fast Rev, who are kind of helpful and useful in educating that. So if I was going to do anything in the future, especially for this album, I think I'm going to collaborate with them to do something that is more sustainable. I don't think the Matangi teas are sustainable, but they are kind of sustainable actually, because there wasn't like tons of waste that was created. But I like the idea of repurposing things. I know, I like the antique bed cover thing as well. That's a really good idea. And I think that is the way to go. Like the Matangi merch will have to be made out of stuff that already exists. Actually, talking of, I have the Astrid Anderson pants on.